Welcome back again to Rinka's Kitchen. I have another family favorite recipe and it's called bean roux soup. RÁNTÁSOS BABLEVES. So all you will need for this recipe is 500 grams of dry red kidney beans, 2 medium carrots, 1 parsnip, 1 medium onion, 2 medium potatoes, 4 cloves of garlic, and for the spices you need 1 teaspoon of salt, and I usually use the sea salt in most of my recipes, 1 teaspoon of Vegeta or vegetable base, a half a teaspoon of ground black pepper, 1 teaspoon of sweet paprika, and I'm using the Hungarian sweet paprika today, 3 tablespoons of flour, 3 tablespoons of vegetable shortening, and 12 cups of water. So in a colander, what I did was I rinsed the red kidney beans with cold water, and then I placed the kidney beans in a medium-sized bowl, and I poured enough cold water over them to make sure that they were covered. So before preparing the soup, what I did was I let the kidney beans soak overnight. So if you're preparing it the next day, you should be soaking your red kidney beans the night before, so that you can get the kidney beans ready for them to be cooked. Okay, so next day what I did was I drained off the water off the kidney beans, and I'm going to just show you what they look like. And they do become a lot larger. So this bowl was of the kidney beans was a lot less than it is now, so it's sort of like expands, and that's what they should look like by morning. And then what I did was in a colander I just drained off the water. And now what I'm going to do is I'm using a large stock pot. I always like to work with a large stock pot. Then you have a lot of room to work with, and you can add all your ingredients into it. So what I have in the large stock pot is 12 cups of cold water. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add the kidney beans into the stock pot, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that on the stove, and I've already got the heat up to medium heat, and I'm going to bring it to a medium boil, and then I'm going to be starting to add all the other ingredients. So I'm just going to put this back on the stove, and I'm going to allow this to come to a boil, and then I'm going to be adding the potatoes. So what I've done is I've diced up some potatoes, 2 potatoes, 1 parsnip, and carrots. So I've diced them up into this size pieces, and here are the parsnip. So I used one medium-sized parsnip, and then I used some carrots, so medium-sized carrots, and 2 potatoes. And today I'm using red potatoes, so it doesn't matter what type of potato that you use for this recipe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow that to boil, and then what I'll do is I'll come back and continue to show you how to make the flour mixture, the flour paste, and it's a roux mixture that you will be adding to the soup. Welcome back again to Rinka's Kitchen. I have on the stove a pot of water, 12 cups of water, and I have 500 grams of red kidney beans, which I've soaked overnight. And so I've added that to the pot, and I brought the water and the red kidney beans to a medium boil, and so that's ready now for me to add the some of the other ingredients. So I cut up some potatoes, and I'm going to be adding that to the stock pot. Now I've covered the stock pot partly like this, so you don't want to be putting the lid on tight fitting. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this off, and I'm going to add the potatoes to the water, and then I'm going to add to the red kidney beans, and I'm going to add the carrots, diced up carrots, and I've used 2 medium carrots, and I've also used some parsnips. It's very common to use parsnips in soup. My family likes to use that. It gives it kind of like a sweet flavor to it. And then I'm going to cook this for approximately 30 minutes. And I'm going to put the lid back so it's partly covered. And I'm going to cook the kidney beans and the carrots and the parsnips all together in this pot for about 30 minutes, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you what else I need to be putting in there. Like I'm going to be adding the spices and some other ingredients. Welcome back again to Rinka's Kitchen. I have on the stove a recipe, and it is called bean roux soup, RÁNTÁSOS BABLEVES. Now what I have in the pot here is 12 cups of water, and I have some kidney beans, 500 grams of kidney beans, which I've soaked overnight before preparing this soup today. And then I have carrots and potatoes and parsnips. So 2 potatoes, and they're diced up, and carrots, 2 medium carrots diced, and parsnip, 1 parsnip diced also. So what I'm going to do now is I've had the soup on the stove for 30 minutes, and I've taken the lid off. So you need to make sure that you have a lid on top of your pot and it's not tight fitting, so slightly kind of leave a little bit of pocket for air to get in to the soup. And then of course then I have some onions diced up, so I'm going to be adding those to the soup. So I've already the soup is cooking at a medium boil, and then I've got some 4 cloves of garlic, and I've diced them up. I'm going to add that to the soup, and then I'm going to add my spices. So I have sea salt that I always use for this recipe, the recipes that I've shared on the website. And then I use Vegeta, and I use the MSG-free Vegeta. You can use a vegetable base of your choice. And then I have some finely ground black pepper, and that's half a teaspoon in there. And then I'm just going to stir this around a bit. Make sure that all the ingredients are stirred well together. And then I'm going to continue cooking this for another additional 30 to 35 minutes. Now you would want to probably test the kidney beans to make sure that they're cooked. I've already tested them already, and they're almost ready. So they'll probably need about another 30 to 35 minutes. So before you take the soup off the stove, you need to test the kidney beans. You might need to cook them for an additional 5 minutes. And then of course then I will be showing you the process as to how to add the roux and how I put the roux together. Welcome back again to Rinka's Kitchen. I have on the stove a Hungarian soup dish, and it is called bean roux soup, RÁNTÁSOS BABLEVES. And I've cooked it for 30 minutes initially with the beans, the 12 cups of water, the potatoes, the parsnips, and the carrots. So I've diced all of those up and added that to it. And then I cooked it for about 30 minutes with a lid on it, on the stock pot. And then of course then I added the remaining ingredients, and that was the onions and the garlic, and those were diced up. And then I added the spices of the Vegeta or vegetable base. You can use either or spice to enhance the flavor of this soup. There's finely ground black pepper and sea salt. So I've added all those ingredients into the pot, and I've cooked it for an additional 30 minutes. And before you take it off the stove, off the heat, you need to check and make sure that the beans are cooked. And if they're not, you can cook them for an additional 5 to 10 minutes. But I didn't need to do that. I cooked them for this soup. I cooked for about 60 minutes. So meanwhile, what I did in a large frying pan, I added and melted 3 tablespoons of vegetable shortening at a medium heat, and then I added flour and I continually stirred it until it became like a paste. And then I lightly browned the flour paste or the roux, and then removed it from the heat, and then I added 1 cup of cold water to the flour. So it's really important that you stir it well. It should look like it's sort of opaque white color to it, and then of course I added the paprika and the parsley, and I added dried parsley today. You can add finely chopped fresh parsley if you like, and the parsley is optional, but my grandmother and my mother would add parsley to this bean roux recipe. So I'm going to show you what the roux looks like. And so what I've done is I've already added the paprika and the water and the parsley to it. After I browned down the flour and the vegetable shortening was added to it before I added the flour to the frying pan. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this roux mixture and I'm going to add it to the soup. And I've taken the soup off the stove, removed it off the stove, and I'm going to add this to the soup, and I'm going to mix it really well, and I'm going to put it back on the stove, and I'm going to cook it until it starts to boil, and then it's ready to serve. You take it off the heat and it's ready to serve. So I've already got the pot over here at the stove, but it's off the heat, and then I'm just going to add the roux to it from the and this has all cooled down because I've added cold water to it. So I'm going to add this roux mixture. It's quite common to add this roux mixture to a lot of recipes, the Hungarian recipes, like my vegetable dishes that I have on the website have this type of a roux type of a paste to them. And it's a thickening kind of an agent. Okay, so I've got that all put in there, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it back on the stove, and I'm going to bring this, I'm going to stir this all in here, the roux, and I'm going to put it back on the stove, and I'm going to bring this to a boil, stirring it, starting to stir it a little bit to make sure that all this, the flour mixture gets mixed together, and it looks great. And I'm going to be coming back once this starts boiling, and I'm going to show you what this looks like in a soup bowl, in a serving bowl. Welcome back again to Arinka's Kitchen. I had on the stove a large stock pot full of bean soup, and what I'd like to do now is I'd like to show you what this great recipe looks like ready to serve. So what I've done is I've put it into a sort of a serving dish. Now if you have a soup tureen, that would be great to do that. You can put it in that and serve it. It's a meal on its own, so you can serve rye bread with it, but it's great on its own. So that's what that looks like, the bean soup, and you can see the beans and the potatoes and the carrots, and there's some parsnips in there, and onions and garlic and potatoes. So it's a very hearty meal. It's very, very filling. My grandmother would serve this to her family often, as it was cost efficient and economical, and was fairly easy to make. So that's what it looks like in a serving dish, and what I'd like to do is show you what it looks like in a soup bowl. So in a soup bowl, so it looks great. So if you have any questions or comments regarding this recipe, please feel free to contact me at irene@irinkaskitchen.com or irinkaskitchen.com. Until next time, bon appetit, jó étvágyat!